Hello. Welcome. I love you guys. So here is another Q&A. Thank you for all of your questions. I picked out a handful and hopefully they are beneficial and useful in some way. I want to preface that I am tapping into my guides, so I want to make sure that they are providing a lot of the information and answers to these questions. So it's not just Lori, ego, personality, mind. So I may take a moment after each question to just tap in. So let's begin. All right. First one is from Christine. Are we as a consciousness going to flip as a whole to 5D when we are at 50% 5D consciousness? So first of all, when she says, are we, I'm assuming she's talking about the huge human collective, the cloud of the human collective, because that's actually what is shifting. She may actually also be talking about we as individual bodies, right? The body is shifting into a 5D consciousness. So the answer is no. It is a slow process, almost like pouring water into a cup to fill it up, right? You don't all of a sudden jump from halfway full to full, right? You have to continue to let the water fill up the cup. It's the same thing with our bodies and the entire human collective, shifting into a fifth dimensional field, 5D consciousness. So it's a slow process. It's a filling up of or slowly increasing the frequency of our bodies into higher frequencies so that we can tap into 5D consciousness and eventually anchor it 100% into our bodies. And it's shifting slowly the human collective so that the human collective as one large cloud slowly begins to shift frequencies like pouring water. Imagine right now that for the human collective, the water is sort of dripping, right? If it was pouring, if the light and the frequency was increasing super fast, it would be detrimental to us. We would go into like psychotic breaks, right? So it's got to be somewhat slow. For the human body, our own human bodies, the water is probably pouring a little bit faster because we have a little bit more control over what's going on inside of our bodies, but it's still not completely, the faucet isn't pouring down. Again, a pouring down faucet or a huge amount of light and our bodies shifting really fast would create psychosis and a massive chaotic state. So it doesn't just flip. It doesn't just all of a sudden happen. You don't just all of a sudden find yourself anchored in a 5D field. It happens very slowly, like your hair growing, okay? So hopefully that makes sense. When, are we as a consciousness going to flip as a whole to 5D when we are at 50% 5D consciousness? No, we will not all as a whole flip. It's very slow. It has to be slow. Otherwise there will be a massive chaotic psychotic break. I mean, look at what's happening right now. You know, we don't quite understand what it means to shift into a 5D field. We don't get it. One, we haven't done it. And we don't understand that the frequencies and the differences in frequencies. So we can barely hold truths and information that's denser that's coming out right now. And we have to be able to hold those denser consciousnesses and truths in order to shift. So shifting into 5D isn't like a walk in the park. It's not a skip across a rainbow bridge. You know, it's not just holding love and light. It's actually dismantling density. And that's the intense piece. And that's why we have to be gentle, and that's why we have to allow it to be slow, a slow process. Next, Silly Sally Alley. How do we handle the childhood trauma that seems to be coming out of everyone on top of all the shifts happening at the same time? How to make sure we are shedding it and not attaching more of this energy to us. So trauma is another word for consciousness that we have experienced in a previous now moment that was painful, uncomfortable, traumatic, uneasy, distressful, and because of that, it wasn't moved through the body as it was being experienced, and so it was stored within the body. Any consciousness that you experience from an external, so let's just say you had an experience with a parent, and it was some sort of emotional, physical, or mental or sexual abuse. There was a consciousness that was experienced between that experience. There were emotions felt, there were behaviors experienced, there were thoughts and beliefs that were had, and they come in to the physical body as consciousness, experienced as emotions, thoughts, behaviors, beliefs. If we, at that age that we had that experience, if we do not allow that to be felt completely, which most of us don't because it's uncomfortable, that consciousness stores in the body. And then what happens is we have more traumas or experiences that we don't like that store in our body throughout our now moments. And so these traumas build up within our bodies. And so right now in our now moment, we are receiving so much high frequency light inside the physical body that this high frequency light is like Drano in a drain. It's literally declogging the body. It's breaking up that trauma. And so those very dense consciousnesses are bursting open, and everyone is starting to feel the trauma that they experienced in another now moment. And it can be trauma that was intense or trauma that's not so intense. It's all relative, but we all have it. And we're all experiencing right now while we are also trying to navigate a collective shift in consciousness, right? We're trying to navigate COVID and masks and vaccines and the school system and the political system and all these things at the exact same time that we are starting to unravel massive trauma that we never thought we would have to look at again. And so the best way to navigate this is first and foremost compassion for yourself as you are unraveling the trauma. And compassion for other humans that may be unraveling their own trauma as well. Being able to allow yourself to know that you're safe as you are unraveling this trauma, because the trauma is not in the now. The trauma is a previous now experience that was so intense that you didn't know what else to do other than store it somewhere so that you could survive and function in your now moment. And so when these things start to arise, whether it is from a previous now moment a year ago, 7 years ago, 35 years ago, 50 years ago, you're safe to allow yourself to just feel it. You want to feel it and recognize that it is trauma. It is a stored consciousness from a previous now that you couldn't feel, period. You are not it, and you are not becoming it, and you are not reliving it just because it is coming up. If you can begin to see any traumatic experiences, feelings, behaviors, thoughts popping up, imagining them as little particles of dust or particles of cloud being literally poofed into the air, into your body, and you're tapping into them as they break up. And unfortunately or fortunately, the way that we move consciousness through our body is that we have to actually feel it. But can you feel it without attaching? Meaning, I am not what I am feeling or thinking or any traumas that occurred in my now moment. And visualize yourself moving through a river. I am floating down the river, and when I run into a rock, a trauma in my body, I'm not attaching to it. I'm not trying to figure out what to do with it. I'm just allowing myself to hit it. Ow, that hurt. Oh my God, that was painful, right? And that's it. That's it. And it may take a while to move around that rock. Maybe it's a huge boulder and it takes a while to navigate beyond that boulder. Or maybe you just hit it and keep going. If you let go of trying to control your emotions and your traumas and you just let it move through, like Drano going down the drain. And I know it's not the greatest analogy, but that's what's just popping in. And let this break up. You will move through trauma much easier. We take things so seriously as humans, and we believe that we have to figure it out, make sense of it, do something with it. And it's quite the opposite. It's all energy. And so it doesn't matter, is this a trauma? Is this not a trauma? Is this something I need to deal with? Is this something I don't need to deal with? Don't worry about it. If it is coming up, it's coming up for the sole purpose for you to feel it with compassion. That's it. So you may feel it while you're doing dishes, and then all of a sudden it goes away for 6 hours, and then all of a sudden you feel it again, and then it goes away. Let it just move. Let it just move through you. And the more that we are holding these higher frequencies, the more that we are moving through this physical shift in consciousness, which is what we're doing, and we are receiving more light every day. It's insane and beautiful. The more the trauma is going to poof up into your awareness. This is how we shift. It's a beautiful thing. So when you feel it, allow yourself to feel it, because this is how, literally, this is how you shift into higher states of consciousness. People always say, well, how do I raise my frequency? You feel the crappy crap you don't want to feel. That's how you move into higher states of consciousness. That's how you do it. So every time you have an opportunity to feel something you don't like, scream out loud, hallelujah, here it comes. I hate this, but I'm going to feel it. Because I know no matter what, I'm moving down the river and I'm moving into higher states of consciousness, and it doesn't matter what comes up, because whatever's coming up must be in a lower state of consciousness than where I'm going. So let's go, bring it on, let me feel it. Okay? Okay. I'm going to piggyback on this next question by Lori. You speak often about alchemizing the density of the emotions we are experiencing. Yeah, I just described that, right? That's alchemizing. At this particular time, they are extremely intense. Yes, because there's more light coming into the body, right? And that light is literally going to break up and explode that trauma, that intense consciousness in the body. I've been a chronic pain sufferer for many, many years. I know the pain is emotionally driven, and my emotional healing journey has been tremendous. But in the past 6 months, the pain has been super intense and is creating more depression, self-pity, and hopelessness. I'm looking to confirm if we are to assume that pain symptoms are equally as intensified in this time and as the emotional. Yes, 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 double yes. So many, many humans are experiencing intense physical pain right now. Almost like a torturous sort of kind of pain, like you're being held down and this pain is just intensifying. So one of the things that is coming through right now that's important to understand or to try to hold is that if you are finding yourself resisting the pain, fighting against it, or like there's a tightness to it, i.e., I don't want to feel it, I hate this, I don't like being this or feeling this or having this, that is a restricted state. It's a completely normal state in the human experience. Because no one likes to feel physical pain, and no one likes to feel physical pain getting more intense. Here's what they want you to remember. Again, it's the same analogy. Imagine the physical pain as this intense bomb almost, or heavy, heavy, dark, dense consciousness that's imploding on itself. So as more light comes down into the body, this consciousness is literally getting tighter and tighter. It's restricting. So instead of just kind of blowing up, like a lot of trauma will do, it'll just burst. Some trauma is so tight inside of you that it's like it's getting more. It's like getting more like a rock. It's just holding tight into you. And when it does that, it creates more of that physical pain wherever it is in your physical body. And this tightness is restriction. There is a restriction that is occurring within you, either consciously or unconsciously, around this consciousness, this trauma, these feelings. So there is something within you, emotionally, mentally, thought, belief, behavior. There is something inside that is in this ball that you, again, are consciously or unconsciously restricting or resisting. It's not your fault. You're not doing anything wrong. This is just what is occurring. And as the light is coming in and shining on it, it's almost getting afraid. It's like, oh, no, I can't feel that. I don't want to experience that. I don't want to see that. I don't want to know that. Every human is different. Every human's journey is different. Every human's pain is different. The reasons that you have pain may be different than someone else's pain. The reason that you may have chronic pain and illness is different than somebody else. Why? Because we each have our own unique Akashic record. And based on that Akashic record, what you have chosen as your base experiences on this earth plane, they have created thousands of experiences in your now moment that have allowed you to digest consciousnesses that have moved into your body to create dis-ease and illness and chronic pain. And there is no right or wrong way in which to ease this pain. But here is what they are offering as a suggestion. Let go. Let go of associating yourself with pain. Let go of associating yourself and seeing yourself as a physical body with pain and illness. Can you begin to observe yourself alchemizing very dense, rock-hard consciousness within your body that is being experienced as chronic pain? First and foremost, instead of trying to dive in and figure out what it is, because in doing that, sometimes that's going to allow more of a attached, restricted state. Trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to clear it. I'm trying to whatever, right? You can become more attached and restricted. Instead, they're saying, can you visualize and see that you are actually experiencing a physical form, beginning to hold more light, and this very rock-hard traumatic consciousness from many different experiences that I am feeling as a ... whatever chronic pain you're feeling, is being released the more I relax and breathe and let go. Very hard. Very difficult. Your job is not to control the chronic pain, because it's going to get more intense as we continue to hold more light in our bodies, because that light is going to disrupt that consciousness until it bursts. And the way we allow it to finally burst is that we start to allow ourselves to feel whatever is starting to squeeze out of that rock, and not make it wrong or bad. So if you're feeling depression, helplessness, sadness, irritability, whatever tiny little things that you are feeling, you recognize that you are not it, but that they are pieces of consciousness that are squeezing out of that rock. And the more you allow yourself to just feel it as an observer, it's squeezing out of that rock, the rock will begin to open. And the more you allow yourself to just feel, I'm not talking about devouring the feeling. I'm not saying become the feeling. I'm saying you just feel it and continue to do your life. You don't let the feeling control you. You don't let the feeling consume your now. You're in the river. You're feeling whatever you're feeling. But you're also moving. You're also doing and being. So if you can start to allow whatever is squeezing out of that rock to be lovingly felt from an observer perspective, that rock is going to start to break up. And the pain will eventually begin to dissolve. The chronic pain. If you are identifying as this chronic pain, you will stay in the chronic pain. If you begin to visualize yourself no longer in chronic pain, I see myself down the river with this rock dissolved, knowing that the way it dissolves is that the things that are, the consciousness that is squeaking out of that rock, I just feel. It's not going to make sense. You're not going to necessarily understand, oh, I'm feeling depression and that's related to my chronic illness or my chronic pain. But it is. They're showing me so acutely this rock and these little consciousnesses coming out. So how can you begin to practice no longer being the chronic pain? No longer associating you as somebody that has ... But instead, you are a higher version of you. You are a higher aspect of you now. You're going to step into this role. And you're going to begin to look at yourself from this higher perspective, because guess what? You actually are a higher consciousness. You know all of this. And so you begin to observe over and over again the fact that you are associating yourself with this chronic pain. You're attaching yourself to it. It's getting worse. I must be doing something wrong. Oh my God, it's going to get worse. It's going to destroy me. It's going to tear me down. It's going to kill me, right? No. The rock is having way more light shine on it. And my role is to observe myself in the body that's literally shifting into higher states of consciousness, and observe the pain as that rock, and observe any emotions and allow myself to feel them with compassion. And if I can do that, it will start to dissolve. That big rock and the pain associated with it will start to dissolve. You don't need to dive in and figure it out. Just feel everything in every now moment. That is the key. And how often are you associating yourself as the pain, as the illness, as the disease? Literally, please practice stepping out and being the observer. It will shift everything. I promise. Okay, Christine Miller. You said next year we are going to know what our role is in the Ascension. I currently have no memory of anything regarding my role or job here. So what is going to trigger the knowing? Light, frequency, your body. So your knowingness is a frequency within your body. It's inside of you. It's like an aha moment. You know, when you have those aha moments and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how I know this, but all of a sudden I know this, and now you can't take that knowingness away from me. It's the same thing with why you are here. Now, here's what's really, really important though, okay? You may have an attachment to how you want to understand why you're here. I want to make sure that I am doing something for the collective. You know, my purpose needs to look like this. I want my purpose to look like this. I want my purpose to be that I'm doing events, or I'm on stage, or I'm an author, or I'm a speaker, or I'm this and that, right? We have an expectation as an egoic structure inside body, inside this physical form. And that egoic structure is going to have desires and attachments and expectations as to what your purpose is. And your purpose may not look anything like that. Your purpose may be that you get married, you have children, and you live a very beautiful life holding higher states of consciousness. That may actually be your purpose. But if you're holding an expectation of a purpose, okay, and that's in a lower state of consciousness. Your expectation of your purpose is in a lower state of consciousness than where your purpose is. Meaning, when you tap into it and when you feel it, it's going to be in a state of consciousness or a frequency that is higher than the egoic expectation. But if you are staying attached to an egoic expectation of what you want it to look like, you will literally be holding yourself back. So this is twofold. One, your body is going to shift you straight into it, meaning you're going to feel and know it. Two, your role here is to not have an expectation around what it is. Let go and surrender into any expectation, any desire of what this is going to look like. Because if you do that, I can guarantee you, you'll fall right into it faster. Your body will show it to you quicker. So pay attention to how the ego wants to structure this, how the ego wants to give you an expectation or an attachment to how it's going to look. And instead say, I am completely surrendered to what may show up. And I know that there is a natural process to this. And my body is going to show it to me in another now moment on an energetic level. I'm going to feel energetically what it is. But again, if you're holding an expectation and an attachment, you will literally be pulling yourself back and staying in that lower field. So pay attention to that. Okay, here's a good one. This is one that's been asked a lot. This is about parenting right now. I just did a really, I talked about this in my Patreon community. I talk about this a lot in my Patreon community about parenting. This comes up a lot. This is a big, big question. How best to bring up our young empathic children? How do I raise my teenagers right now? How do I make sure that they are navigating this in the best way possible? So first and foremost, as a parent, you are doubling down on this ascension journey, meaning that you are not only aware of it for yourself, but you're aware of it for these other beings, these other humans walking around. And so there is a huge amount of pressure that you have on your backs. So can you take the pressure off? Because they have chosen you as the parent for a reason, not so that you can hold the heavy burden of making sure they get through this, but because they knew that you would be able to guide them on an energetic level through this. They knew that you would be able to guide them on an energetic level through this, not on a logical level as a parent. So many of you are holding such an expectation or pressure that you have to make sure your child gets through this. And they get through this with the least amount of bruises on them. Your children are going to be bruised and they're going to go through this just like we are. They're going to hit rocks and boulders and trees and shrub. The best thing that you can do for your child at any age right now, 3 years old, 26 years old, is to share your truth with an understanding that regardless of how they are viewing it from their perspective, they energetically get it. They may not energetically get it now, but they will energetically get it from another now moment. Why? Because they chose you as their parent for that energetic connection, for the energetic back and forth. So first, you continue to share your truths. Not because you want to change them, shift them, or make sure that they hold them as well, but because you understand from an energetic level, it is activating them or assisting them energetically. 2, you want to listen without judgment or attachment, which is a very difficult thing to do as a parent. Just listen to them. It's not your role to change them. It is your role to unconditionally love them, no matter where they are and whether they see and understand this shift in consciousness like you do or not. It may take them 10 years. So if they don't understand what you're saying in terms of empathy and consciousness and seeing this from whatever perspective, you love them from where they're at. You love them with where they're at. And you are always reminding yourself to shine the light of who you are with your truth and your knowingness in a compassionate, loving, empathic, and open way. Because that is more important than any words you say. Again, there's an energetic contract. They will feel it. So your child comes home and he or she is upset because they had to wear masks all day and so was mean to them and they don't understand why this is happening and blah, blah, blah. Or the opposite, they love this and they love the masks and they're making fun of people that don't want to wear the masks. Whatever it is, anything and everything, first and foremost, you listen. You listen. And then perhaps you share a perspective that they may not see, that you are energetically feeling, and you allow them to have whatever response and reaction they have. Your job is not to change them. My job is not to change you. Your job is not to change me. We are here to honor and reflect back our own energetic frequencies, honoring your energetic frequency and where you are. Your child is going to move through this ascension and evolution in consciousness just like you are. And they are going to go through their own process. You are a guide and a parent at the same time. But you do it from a place of, one, you're sharing your truth from an empathic, open, compassionate, unconditionally loving way. I'm not trying to change you or make me right, you wrong. You listen. You listen and you honor their experience. You honor what they're thinking and feeling. You share your perspective on an energetic level. If you can share your perspectives and your truth with a wide open heart and love, they will be able to receive. You remind them of their own light. What do you believe to be your truth? What do you believe to be your knowingness? What is your truth, even if it's not mine? What is your truth? And they may say, my truth is this, 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 this. And you're like, oh, sweet Jesus, that's not my truth. Holy cow. You honor and love the hell out of them, because that is the only way they will be able to continue to step deeper into their sovereignty. The best thing that we could teach our children right now is learning and understanding their own truth. Not Joe's, not Sam's, not Carrie's, not Janet's, their truth. That is all that matters, what feels right to them. And you let them have that, because it'll change. But if they start learning how to discern between anyone else's truth and their truth by feeling what feels right to them, that's the greatest gift you can give them. Greatest gift you can give them. Teach them sovereignty by you practicing your own sovereignty. Feeling your truth, knowing your truth, honoring your truth, speaking your truth. What if, ... What if you felt this, ... That's okay. What does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that mean to you? How courageous for you to feel your truth, and it may not be all the other kids' truths, right? Sovereignty, discernment, energy, feeling. Huge, 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 huge. And if you are feeling a burden or a weight right now, remember your child chose you for a reason. They knew that you would be able to move them through this on an energetic level. So trust that. Trust it, no matter what they say, think, or feel. Hopefully that is helpful. Okay, hi Lori. This is from Christy. Is there a point where the ascension into 5D consciousness slows down for us? What I mean is that it won't be as uncomfortable and we feel a little more at peace. 1000% Christy. So I want you to imagine like a cup of water, right? And we are sort of at the, here's the cup, like this big, right? And we're like, the water's filled up to right here. So it's a very tumultuous time. We've got a ways to go, but we're not holding that much 5D consciousness yet, right? We've just tapped the surface of 5D consciousness. So the water in the cup is 5D. The cup is the human collective in the body, and we've just begun. And this beginning phase that we're in is very, very tumultuous. It's very chaotic. It's just the beginning of this massive physical shift. And so it's like, what the freak is this? We've been so asleep, literally. We've been so conditioned and programmed. We've been in the dark, literally, for so long that when the lights come on and the water starts to fill up that cup, It is crazy. And so this phase will never be again. As the water continues to fill up and as we continue to hold more 5D consciousness, both in the collective and in the human body, that chaotic holy cow begins to settle. Partly because we start to get used to this shifting. We start to get used to the dark consciousness or the lower frequency consciousnesses appearing in our now that have been dark or silent, or shall I say, we have been shut down. Our eyes have been closed. We haven't been able to see it. As we start to see it more, we start to get more comfortable and familiar with this consciousness that is alchemizing and clearing. And so we find ourselves starting to hold more and more 5D consciousness internally in our bodies and externally in the collective. And things start to quiet. So in the beginning, there's a large amount of dense consciousness that needs to be seen, felt, experienced, and alchemized. And then eventually it starts to dissolve and there's not so much left in the collective. Right? And we start to feel these higher states of consciousness more as the water starts to rise. As 5D consciousness starts to move into our bodies more and into the collective, we start to feel love more, joy more, peace more. Even though there's still corruption and greed and whatever that may be happening out there, it is lessening. It's becoming less prevalent, less potent. But in the beginning, it's like a huge volcano has gone off and we're just like, holy cow. But it absolutely quiets. Now, time frame, if I were to try to be completely honest in terms of time frame, I would say it's going to take some years, a couple years, to really move through this first initial volcano eruption. But we're already getting used to it. We're already starting to get our tool belts on and having tools and ways to navigate this, right? Techniques. As we start to feel higher states of consciousness in this cup, we're starting to learn how to navigate this a little bit more so that we can continue to navigate it as we continue to watch the denser consciousnesses arise in our collective and in the external in order to alchemize, break up, dissolve. So we are in the most intense piece. It will not get more intense than it's getting right now, but this right now intense moment may last a couple of years. It'll slowly dissolve. So this is a now moment clearing that is going to, because we live in a time-space continuum, that the time is experienced, right? There's a lapse. It's going to happen for a little bit of time. But eventually we will move through this. Hopefully that helps. Okay, let's see. Can you explain in more detail how and when you realized that higher dimensional beings were contacting you? And do you know of any exercises to enhance our ESP? This is from Holly. You had mentioned that our guides and higher dimensional beings are around us a lot. They're around you in every now. How can we learn to communicate with them? Okay, so I started communicating with higher dimensional beings. I can't remember the exact now moment, but basically I felt this nudge to begin to sit down and quiet myself. And as I felt this nudge to sit down and quiet myself, I started to hear a different voice in my head. It was my voice. It sounded like me, but it also wasn't me. So first and foremost, for me, when I connect and communicate, it sounds like my voice, but I know that it's not my voice. And that's where people get confused. They think they're speaking to themselves. They're actually speaking to their guides all the time. They think they're talking to themselves. The reason that it sounds like your own voice is because it's being filtered from within you. Connecting to your guides and your angels and any other dimensional being isn't having a conversation with something external that's standing in front of you, and all of a sudden it's this different voice and it has a different sound, and it's like, you know, an absolute conversation that's being had that is different, that you can differentiate, that you can just, you know, it's like a conversation with a human. It's not anything like that for the most part in the beginning for most of us. It's an energetic exchange. And that energetic exchange moves through your channel or your body. And you feel the energy. So it could be a nudge. It could be an emotion. It could be a sound or a voice you're hearing. The key is to begin to trust it, to begin to listen to it. So as I started to listen to this nudge of sit down and quiet yourself and close your eyes, I would do that, and all of a sudden I felt this being around me. And I allowed myself to trust it. That's the other thing. A lot of people don't trust. They're like, I don't know if that's true. I'm not going to trust it. You have to play in imagination. That's the quantum field. The quantum field is equal to imagination. That's how the human body allows us to move into a quantum field. That's dark. It's black. When I close my eyes, it's black. But guess what? I can access the quantum field by allowing myself to use my imagination, to see into, to feel into other energies. And it's still black. What a lot of people do is say, it's black. I don't know what I'm doing. I can't see anything. I can't feel anything. And then they give up. I didn't give up. I felt something and I dissected it. What is this? Who are you? And I had a conversation with it over and over and over again. And I sat down and I practiced talking to this being over and over and over. And I had the being sit next to me. And the next thing I knew, within about a year, it was training me, this being was training me on how to channel, was training me on how to feel different energies. But if I had ignored it and said, no, it's just a voice in my head, nope, I'm not going to go there, then I may not be where I am right now channeling. You are the one in charge. You're the one making the choice to believe or not to believe. You have to start believing what you are hearing. You have to start believing your own thoughts in your head, your own voice in your head. You have to start believing the energies that you feel. There's no other way of doing this. You have to choose to believe it. And then what I started noticing after about a year of training with this being is that I would start hearing other voices sort of outside of me and yet moving, but it was also in my head. So it was interesting. It was like I could feel that there was an energy outside of me, but I knew that it was coming through and I was hearing it within my own head. That's how I hear all my guides. All of them. Sounds like me speaking to me, but I've gotten real clear on who it is, where they're standing in the room, what their energetic field feels like. I can decipher now. It's been a couple of years. But in the beginning, I just said, I'm going to trust anything and everything that comes through. And so I encourage you in this now moment to know, first of all, can you know without a shadow of a doubt that your guides are around you? And if you can't, well, then that's the first problem that you're going to run into. You don't believe they're around you. So how are you ever going to be able to communicate? You have to believe beyond a shadow of a doubt that they're around you. Once you can hold that knowingness, then you begin to connect and communicate with them, even though you can't see, feel, or hear them. Nobody's going to do this for you. There's no pill you can take where all of a sudden it becomes this like magical thing you're doing. Start talking to them. Because beyond a shadow of a doubt, 1000% unequivocally, I'll chop my fingers off if I'm lying, they're with you right now. So it's about you trying to figure out how you are going to navigate this and trust this and choose to believe. One of the best ways to do it is to have a daily practice where you sit for 5 minutes and you call in your guides. And you have them surround you and just sit for 5 or 10 minutes. Do nothing. Just feel energy. Feel what it feels like to call them in. And practice that. I'm doing a channeling course, a 4-hour channeling webinar, and I teach all about this coming up Saturday. I think the link will be down below. I teach this. It's easy. We're born to do this. It's just learning or remembering, relearning how to do it. You got to look at them, talk to them, and experience them as if they are right here, right now, and you have to trust everything you hear. Everything. Okay, very last question. I do want to let you guys know that I am going to be doing a video on the event. So a lot of people are asking me, what's going on December 21st? What's going on with this event? What's going on with the solar flare? So I do want to let you know that I am going to do a separate video on that, and that'll come out in the next week or two, because there were a lot of questions on that. Okay, Crystal, can you give us an update about what is going on with the children, and when will the whole world be made aware of the darkness that is involved with the children? And when she's talking about the children, she's talking about the pedophile rings, the sex trafficking around the world, the satanic rituals that are occurring, the sacrificing, these really, really dark programs and paradigms that have been in place for thousands of years. And they run the gamut in terms of children and sex trafficking and the pedophile rings, right? There's a lot of different ways that this is being played out and experienced in humanity's collective right now. So it is a very, very, very intense and dark collective field, sex trafficking. And it needs to be dropped very delicately to the humans. And so one of the reasons that we are going through COVID first, one of the reasons we are going through Black Lives Matter first, one of the reasons that we are going through the vaccine stuff first is so that we can get prepared and able to hold even more intense stuff that's going to be shown to us. It's already being shown to us, but not in the way that it is going to be. And not everything is going to be given to us. A lot of things are going to be dismantled behind the scenes so that we don't actually need to see all of the darkness. But it absolutely has to be dropped slowly, because the human collective is not standing in enough light and a high enough frequency to be able to hold what is actually occurring. It would break a lot of humans. It would create so much pain and suffering, and the human wouldn't know how to hold it. They wouldn't know how to process it. So to answer your question, Crystal, it's happening now. It's being dropped now, but slowly, very, very slowly. And this is going to take years. This has been very clear to me. The huge collective consciousness around sex trafficking, sex pedophilia, the satanic rituals, the really, really horrific, gut-wrenching experiences that are being played out right now with children and adolescents will take a couple of years minimum to really begin a massive dismantling. So it's happening. It just has to happen slowly. And we have to be really compassionate around ourselves and others that can and cannot hold it. Not everyone will be able to see, feel, and hold it, and they don't need to. But it will continue to unravel, okay? So I know a lot of us want it to be now. We want everyone to see this and everyone to acknowledge it, and it will. It is, and it will. We got to just do it delicately. And that's why it's happening in the way that it's happening. Okay? And that's for a lot of things. Yeah. Okay. So I do want to do one more. I want to offer up one more piece of information that's just popping in right now. It's kind of a fun piece of information. No one's really asked about it, but it's coming in, so I want to share. There will be a kind of like a false flag. Again, I don't know why I'm sharing this, but it's just coming through, so here we go. There's going to be a false flag of like alien invasion or ETs showing up. I don't exactly know time frame, maybe a year from now, maybe within a year or something, right? We're going to see more things in the sky. Oh my God, they're showing up. But what my guides said to me is that's not us. That there are human councils or human collectives that are creating another fear narrative. Now, this may or may not play out, depending upon how quickly we are able to shift the human collective. But they want us to just keep an eye open to this narrative or this perhaps possible timeline that people in governmental structures or places where they have a lot of control may try to create a fear narrative around the ETs coming in. Kind of like how they created a massive fear narrative around COVID. So again, this may or may not play out depending upon how quickly we're able to shift the human collective. But just be prepared that if people are starting to speak about light beings, aliens, and ETs, etc., from a narrative of dark, from a narrative of fear, from a narrative of be careful, watch out, that's the fear narrative they want you to be aware of that is controlling humanity. So more and more people are starting to perhaps speak about the negativity of these beings, the darkness of these beings, be afraid, don't listen to these beings, these kinds of stuff, right? So it's not necessarily just that they are going to create some sort of false flag in the sky. They're creating a false flag around the entire human collective, around higher dimensional beings. And it's going to get louder. Be afraid. Don't open yourself to them. These are dark entities. This person is speaking Satan or devil worship, right? That's going to become louder and louder. It's a false flag. We're going to scare the crap out of humanity so that they don't listen to the higher dimensional beings that are actually going to start coming in more and more. So pay attention. If somebody or something is telling you that it's dark, that it's the devil, that it's Satan, that it's dark beings, that it's not good for you, pay attention to how you feel when they're telling you that. Because if it's a fear narrative, it's designed to control you. It's designed to tell you what to think and to tell you what to feel, to tell you how to be. Any fear narrative from anyone, including a spiritual teacher, is designed to control you, whether they realize they're doing it or not. And so you want to be acutely aware of this in the next year. Hopefully it won't get much more intense, but they're very much wanting me to share this right now. And as I'm speaking this, I'm getting an understanding that this is not so much the lights in the sky that you're seeing, although a lot of the lights that you're seeing in the sky are not ETs. They're preparing for something, the humans. So, meaning they may be trying to scare the hell out of humans, okay? So feel into what feels right to you, what feels true to you. And how do you know it's right or is true? Is there fear in it? Are you afraid in this message? Are you feeling restricted in this message? Because there are more and more higher dimensional light beings coming in. There are not dark beings coming into this dimensional plane right now, working with and assisting humanity. There are entities that are floating around that are going to, come into your field. And entities are more like little particles of dust that go up your nose and you're like, you got to get it out, right? They're consciousnesses that swirl around. You tap into it. You're like, ugh, that doesn't feel so good. And then it dissolves because you recognize that it's not real and you let go of it, right? But dark beings, they're not coming into this dimensional field in the way that humans believe them to be. They're not infiltrating and creating corruption and chaos. Now the reptilians are, and I've done a video on that, and you can go back and look at that video. The reptilians are a consciousness that have been here for thousands of years. They're not just now entering in, and more of them are not entering in. The only thing entering into this field right now are higher dimensional light beings angels, magic freaking beings that are assisting us. And so pay attention to the fear narratives. Pay attention to what people are teaching others. Pay attention to what people are telling others. And why? Why are you creating a fear narrative for me? Why? So just pay attention to that. It's going to be hard for a lot of people, perhaps, not everyone, maybe not a lot, but they are letting me know that it's going to be challenging for people to hold this belief that dark beings are not coming down onto the planet and infiltrating and impacting the human. I don't know why they're telling me this, but they are. So it's a choice. But they're telling me they're not. The only thing that's occurring right now is what has always been on the earth plane, which is the reptilian consciousnesses, because fourth dimensional races, fourth dimensional beings have been taken off the earth plane. They're not on the earth plane anymore. And any human that is interacting with darker consciousnesses, dark beings, dark light beings, fourth dimensional races, they're doing it off the earth plane in an etheric realm, by location wise. The beings are not coming in. Again, I don't know why this was needing to be said, but I think it's important, because we are going to be asked to begin to communicate even more with these higher dimensional light beings. Yes, 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 they're saying yes. And a lot of humans are afraid. And a lot of humans aren't sure what to trust. Okay, so that was the big piece. Don't be afraid and trust. Don't be afraid and trust. We're right here, they're saying. Okay, beautiful. Awesome. All right, you guys. I hope this Q&A was useful and helpful. I do want to let you know that a lot of you already know this. A lot of you are in my Patreon community, but I have a really beautiful Patreon community online. And right now it is the most it is my go-to. I show up live every week, and about 4 to 6 times a month, I show up live. And there's so much support, so much love, so much guidance, so much messages, so much that we receive when we come together. And I'm sharing this with you right now because I need this more than my community sometimes. And if you are looking for more support, if you are looking for somebody to lean on, if you're looking to receive more messages and guidance and what the freak is going on? How do I know I'm not crazy? Join us. The link's down below. You can go to patreon.com and just search Lori Ladd. I'll be there. It's $23 a month. You can unsubscribe at any time. There's so much valuable information in there. And if it doesn't resonate, check out and leave. If it does resonate, come in. And we're always surrounded by beings. We connect with these higher dimensional beings. It's just a really, really powerful portal to be able to access right now, especially with all this that's happening. So anyway, that link to the Patreon community is down below. Whew, I love you guys so much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being with me on this journey. Thank you for supporting me. I appreciate you each so much. And I look forward to continuing this journey with you as we shift into these higher states of consciousness together, side by side, loving each other and cheering each other on. Be gentle with yourself.